Now imagine you're in a situation where you actually have to assign value to something that you would normally regard as priceless. So, let me tell you the story of the Drapers. Susan and Daniel Drapers were a couple that lived in the Chicago area. They were expecting a child. On the night of Susan Draper's labor, she went to the hospital after her water broke, and unfortunately, her child was born with a brain hemorrhage and suffered severe neurological damage. The child was put on a ventilator machine for a few months, but after a while, the doctors gave the Drapers a difficult decision. They said, discontinue the treatment, your child dies. Continue the treatment, 40% chance that your child will die in a matter of hours or a few days, 60% probability that your child will never be able to speak, walk, or interact with other people. Basically, a vegetable. I have disguised the names, but this is a true story. We actually interviewed, and this is in conjunction with Christine Orfali, an ethicist. So we interviewed and followed parents of dying infants, and in all cases the treatment was withdrawn, from Chicago and Paris, and we followed them for up to a year. And we observed their coping with the death of their infant. Now, what's interesting about this particular comparison is in the U.S., where we rely more heavily, and particularly more so, on a more autonomous model. Ultimately, although doctors can make recommendations, the parents have to sign the final consent form before treatment can be discontinued. In Paris, by contrast, the doctors decide if the treatment is to be discontinued. And the question is, what are the consequences of having to make such a tragic choice, where you actually have to decide the value of saving this life versus the cost that it will have on your life? This is something that we would normally regard as priceless. We attempted to try to diagnose what are the consequences of this. Now, in terms of the parents, we observed that the American parents took a lot longer to cope with the death of their child than did the Parisian parents. Parisian parents were much more like the quotes we got from them. They were much more likely to say such things as, you know, he didn't live very long, but for whatever little time he was there, we learned a lot from him. We gained a new philosophy of life. Other French parents said we couldn't have done it without the doctor's support. By contrast, American parents were quoted as saying, I find myself waking up every night thinking, what if, what if, what if? Other parents have made such statements as, I felt as if I was a part of an execution. I can't believe they made me make such a decision. It turns out that the American parents took longer before actually choosing to have another child. We decided to follow up these findings by trying to do as best a simulation as we could to look at the ramifications of such decisions. So we did a simulation with undergraduate students where we put them in, to the best of our ability, a similar situation. They're confronted by a vignette. You just had a child, name is Julie, born 27 weeks in terms of gestation, less than 2 pounds, suffers brain hemorrhage, neurological damage. Here are the options. In the uninformed no-choice condition, they're simply told by the and they're randomly assigned to one of these 3 conditions. Uninformed no-choice condition, they're told the doctors have decided that the treatment will be discontinued. In the informed choice condition, they're told, here are your 2 choices. Again, discontinue or continue, similar probabilities to the Drapers. In the informed no choice, they're given the 2 choices, but then told that the doctor has decided that it's in the best interest that treatment be discontinued. Okay, just about done. Turned out that the informed non-choosers were better off in terms of the amount of negative emotion that they reported experiencing or feeling after reading this vignette and deciding, as compared to the informed choosers or the uninformed non-choosers. Now, of course, we live in a society in which choice is so heavily valued, a very lawsuit-oriented culture. Is it really practicable for us to completely remove choice? And that's obviously a question for many policymakers to debate. But we decided to try yet another variation. This time what we did was we took the two informed conditions and added another layer to it where we said that the superior option is to withdraw treatment. Now again, we compared choosers to non-choosers. And this time we found that the choosers and non-choosers were equally less emotional, experienced less negative emotions. Now, what's interesting about this last variation is that it suggests that there may be ways to preserve people's feeling that they chose, while at the same time taking away the burden of having to make such a tragic choice.
21.
So, in thinking about the three types of multiple choice problems, and clearly we're still trying to learn more and more about the ramifications of offering people offering people more choices, more domains in which they have to make a choice, what's important to think about both as individuals and as academics that come together to try to think about policies is what are ways in which we can make it easier for ourselves to make decisions? What are things we should think about trying to create in terms of policies to make it more feasible for people to be able to choose more wisely for themselves as the choice problem becomes more complicated? Thank you.